Good morning, Sequim. My name is Megan Like, and you're listening to the new Sequim School District Podcast, Storytellers. Today, our student focus is found at Sequim High School, and I am sitting here with the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Sean Langston, and he has brought some stellar students with him today. And so, Mr. Langston, you've got the floor. Go ahead and take it away.
Good afternoon. I'm Sean Langston, the principal at Sequim High School. I have the distinct pleasure of talking to three fine seniors here today who, by the way, have their own podcast, and that's the reason that we picked them to be highlighted in the podcast for the Sequim High School students. So I get to ask the first question, and the first question is an icebreaker. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have each of you, when I ask you this, I want to have you introduce yourself so folks know who you are. So the question is, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give to your kindergarten self? And remember, you're talking to a kindergartner, so you might have to use real small words in your advice.
Okay.
We'll start there with you, number 4.
My name is Jackson Vandeweg. I'm a senior at Sequim High School, and I'm also the senior class ASB president. If I could give myself advice, my kindergarten self, it would probably be to set more short-term goals. I think from a young age, I thought a lot about what I wanted to do in my career and what I wanted to achieve as a high schooler or as a college student. And those are good things to think about, but they're hard to achieve week by week. So I think I would have rather set more goals of like what I wanted to do by the end of the month or things I wanted to do that day to help me achieve my long-term goals.
Thank you, Jack. On a side note, knowing Jack when he was in kindergarten, you nailed it right there, because when you were in kindergarten, you were already thinking about what college you were going to. I know that for a fact. So, thank you, sir. First Christian.
I think that's me. My name is Christian Gonzalez, and if I could go back in time and give myself any piece of advice to my kindergarten self, I'd say that every cliche piece of advice you hear does hold some validity, and especially the one where it says you need to enjoy your childhood because it's going to zoom by like extremely fast. Now that I'm a senior, it's like, wow, where did all the time go? Like, it's just like all a blur, and I just wish I could have appreciated it just a little bit more in the actual moment.
Gonzo,
yeah,
that's awesome advice right there.
Thank you.
You guys listen to that advice if you're a kindergartner out there, okay? Christian number 2.
What's up? I'm Christian Mingoy. I'm also a senior, and I have the same advice as Gonzo. It was to take things slow and enjoy the present, and not always like think of the future, but like stay in the present, but also like enjoy the time you have with the people that surrounds you. And yeah.
Which leads me to the next question. It says right here, you recently started a podcast called Humans of SHS. I'm going to have you guys talk to me a little bit about that and what gave you the idea for launching it. But I do want to say to folks who are listening, you should check it out. It's pretty cool. It's on Spotify. And it's just called Humans of SHS, and the boys talked to some different folks. Mr. Rappelejay's highlighted. Their latest one is one of our students at the high school, and these are 3 really bright, very thoughtful young men who asked some great questions. So check it out. So whomever would like to start, tell us about kind of how this started, why you guys are jumping in the podcast world.
It started just in leadership when we were just discussing like possible projects that we could take on. And I think we were just inspired by the idea of having some sort of take on Humans of New York, which is kind of just what we're doing, but just like a grander scale type of thing. They just interview like random people around New York and just like highlight everybody's story, just because it's just kind of cool that they just like a random person can have so much like about them that you just have no idea. And then when you hear it, it's like, wow, that's like, it's like inspiring really just to hear people's stories. So I think that was just kind of like the idea behind this podcast, just to inspire people.
Awesome. Either other two you want to add to that, or?
Yeah, I think with COVID too, we all felt really disconnected at the beginning of the school year, and we wanted to find a way to create an energy that's more personable. So we wanted to give more stories of who people really are so that people aren't as afraid to go up and talk to someone new because they realize that they go through the same struggles as everyone else.
And I will tell you all out there, I was just telling the boys, I was listening to one of them today, and they did talk about kind of COVID and how that's impacted them. And it's awesome. We're all sitting here without masks on right now. How about that? Christian, you want to add anything, or you don't have to?
Nah, they paid.
They did it. Huh?
Yeah,
they nailed it. Then you might be on the hook for the next one there, sir. Next one talks about, says, tell us about some of the topics that you plan to cover in the future. And the thing I'll add to that would be, what was something that you learned about Mr. Rappeljay during that podcast that you guys didn't know? And you probably all had him before, I'll bet, as a teacher. But so, upcoming topics, and then something that we don't know about rap that you guys learned. Christian, you do get to start this one, big fella.
I think the upcoming topics we want to expand on is mental health and how it's present in our society, and how to combat it and be relatable to other people, and relate our struggles to see other people actually go through this, and make it okay to talk about and be more
I would say open about it,
Just
like
be
you
more,
say, and I think that's so true. Couldn't be said better from the perspective of you got to talk about that stuff, and you guys do. In the last one I was just listening to, and I appreciated that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people too hear that they need to ask for help, and that they need to reach out when they're in an emergency state of mind. But if you're more open about mental health problems and you talk about things not expecting to get help, then you won't have to reach the emergency state of mind. You can talk through your problems with someone else and truly understand what you're feeling, instead of just bottle it all up and then wait until things get bad and you feel like there's nowhere else to go.
Awesome. Thanks, Jack. It really does break down the walls of stigma when you can talk about it like you guys are doing. That's a big deal, because for so long people just didn't talk about it, suffered in silence, like you're saying, Jack, and then get to a point where they just blow. But so it's awesome you guys are doing that.
I think the whole idea about just continuing with this mental health thing is just knocking down the barrier of people being embarrassed about it. I think if we could get to the point in society where we just treat it like any other actual physical illness, when somebody has the flu, they're not embarrassed to say yeah, I had the flu. I think it'd just be cool, a thing yeah, I've been suffering from depression and anxiety, and being it's okay, everybody, so many people do. And I just think just making it more common to actually talk about that freely will help out.
It's awesome. Thanks. And I will say, what's cool also about that is you three are boys that are real leaders at our school, very, very involved in all kinds of things, from sports to ASB to whatever. So it's cool that you're talking about that and not just somebody who's kind of holed up in a room by themselves. So thanks. Anything about rap that you learned?
Yes, I got one thing. I found it really interesting on how he got his job at Sequim High School. And so you should listen to that episode. But there was a teacher that gave up part of their position to get Rap his job. And I don't know, it was kind of passed over as we were talking about it. But when I've gone back and listened to that episode, that's something that is a true example of humanity, I guess.
That's awesome. Yeah. So the story goes, it was actually the year before I came. So Rap had just gotten hired the second semester. Shirley, I forgot her last name. Dang it. But it's on your podcast. Mr. Rappeljay talks about that. So he student taught for her. She thought he was so good. So she gave up her job for the second semester so he could get that and then get his foot in the door. So yes. Anybody else want to add anything about Rap? That's good. I just wanted to get Rap's name in here.
There's this one saying that Rap said. It was chop wood and carry water.
Yeah.
And that's I've been looking into it more, and recently making my own definition of it. And I feel it's going to be I feel it's going to impact my life greatly, just thinking about it and living by that saying.
That's cool that you remembered that, Christian. I heard that part too. I wonder, you guys should ask him, have a follow-up question. Ask him if he learned that from Mr. Berg. Mr. Berg was a teacher. I don't know if did you guys have him? No, he was probably, he retired before you guys came, but that was a saying of his back in the day, and I wonder if Rap stole that from him, which is okay. Stealing's okay in that situation. Gonzo, you want to add anything? You don't have to.
Nah, I think they covered it.
Okay, last question here, gentlemen. You guys are three seniors who, like I said before, have been extremely involved in all things Sequim High School, but I would bet you have been when you were in elementary school and middle school. So when you look back on all of your career, what are some things that you learned at Sequim High School and beyond that you're planning on taking with you as you move forward?
I think one thing I learned is it's okay to not live up to the standards that's put onto you by your teachers, adults, and like your parents. It's okay to like disappoint sometimes, but knowing like you tried doing so. You don't have to live up to expectations that other people put onto you. Like if you know you're doing like too much or you're not feeling like you're like your true self and like just trying to become like the product of the product that people want you to be, I feel like that's just not right. You should live how you want to live and be what you want to be and do what you want to do. And yeah.
No, that's great, Christian. Well said from the perspective of, like I said before, you guys are 3 kids that have been involved in a ton, and a lot of times us adults put very high expectations on you. If you are, let's just say, I don't know, the ASB exec president, then there's all those things you got to take care of, or the class president, or any of those leadership positions, which most of you guys have been in. So it's okay. And it's a kind of a tie to your mental health thing. That's one of our biggest worries. Our kids like you guys that do so much stuff, we worry about your mental health because you're stretched so thin. You're so much pressure on all the things that you do. You guys are all 3 of you playing soccer last night till 9 o'clock, and you're back up at 7 o'clock for leadership this morning, I would bet. Probably not up at 7, probably up at whatever time, or maybe you were late this morning. I don't know if that's Mr. Mara, but yes, that's well said there, Christian. You two, what are you taking away? It's a big question, by the way.
So throughout my high school career, I've done a lot of things, such as being class president or getting good grades or taking a hard coursework. And those things are good, but I felt that in the next step, I would get rewarded for my actions. That's not how life works.
Not only did you not get rewarded, you just got more stuff to do, probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I came to the realization fairly recently that I didn't do those things because I wanted to be rewarded, but I did them because I truly enjoyed how I was spending my time. So going into college, I'm trying to use this philosophy to just push myself and enjoy the grind instead of expecting results or praise or money or anything else that might come from things you would expect from hard work, but to just work hard because you enjoy working hard.
That's awesome, Jack. Good. Intrinsically, you're going to feel a lot better about that. You got something really profound, Gonzo, I know.
Maybe. We'll see. I think the biggest thing for me, and also like Jack said recently, I really picked up on this, is that I want to just try treating myself how I treat others, in the way that I try my best to treat others with compassion, respect, and it's a thing you always give the best advice to others, but for some reason you can't follow it yourself. And I think that just builds off the idea that at the end of the day, you're only really competing with yourself, and that's all that matters. I think in high school, when you're surrounded by so many people and you're seeing so many accomplishments by different people, it's inevitable to compare yourself to this person or that person. They're doing this, they got this on the test, they got this on the test. And I think, I mean, it can be cool, but at the end of the day, you shouldn't really that shouldn't define who you are. You're defined who you are by what you think of yourself. And that can just go a long way, building off of this whole mental health thing. It can really either break you down or build you up, and it's just all based off of your attitude towards yourself.
Gentlemen, that's amazing. The advice the 3 of you just gave right there is really, really good advice. I would say I was thinking of 2 things when you were talking right there. I was lucky enough to play football in college, and my coach always talked about the comparison game. And what he talked about from the comparison game was our job was to compare ourselves to our own best self, not anybody else. And how often do we fall into that comparison game at Sequim High School or any other high school when we were talking about accomplishments or athletically or whatever? And so that's great advice there, sir. Last question I have.
Where did you go to college again?
I went to, and Jack does know this, I went to the finest institution in all of America, and that would be called Pacific Lutheran University.
I think I might have heard that before.
Yeah, I think you have heard that before. I imagine you guys have as well. And at the finest institution in all of America, that's Pacific Lutheran University, I was lucky enough to play in 2 national, not 1, but 2 national championship football games. Won one of them, lost the other one.
Have you heard of the finest institution on Ellensburg by
Central
Washington? Yeah, I think Sean O'Mara actually attended.
Sean, you know what though? I will tell you this though. Do you know where else? Sean went?
Where?
PLU.
Oh.
Hey now. You got to check with Mr. O'Meara. He went to like 4 different schools. He went down to St. Martin's, I think. He was a college athlete also. He played golf in college. So last question. Is that okay if I ask the last question? Okay, I got the go-ahead from the producer. And you guys have to think on your feet here. Speaking of the finest institution in all America or Central, you don't want to go to a school that's just a directional school, like Central, Western, Eastern. You want to go to the finest institution. But what are your plans next year? Just let folks know where you fine gentlemen are thinking. And if you're not sure yet, that's fine. You could say that.
I'll start. I'm going to go to Montana State University in Bozeman.
Bobcats?
Bobcats.
I'm with the Bobcats. In fact, did they play in the national championship in football this year?
They did, and they also made the D1 March Madness bracket.
Yeah, first time I saw that. Yeah. It was a big year for them.
It was.
Do you know who went there from our
Mr.
school?
Younger.
Yeah, hey, ding, ding, ding. Jack wins the award there. Gonzo, you're next.
I am 95% certain that I will be attending UW in Seattle and intending on getting my major in biology.
Nice, very nice. Go Huskies.
I'm also going to attend University of Washington to study engineering.
Wow. You guys are smarter than I was, that's for sure. You're not smarter in the sense that you're not going to a finer institution. It's just the coursework that you're going to do is different than probably mine was. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time. Another plug, you guys check it out on Spotify, Humans of SHS. It's worth the listen. Give them some feedback, like them, or whatever you do. I don't even know how that works. And that
Follow us. Thank you.
Okay.
We appreciated this.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I get back to class.
It has been wonderful having you all here with me this morning. And for all of our listeners, thank you for joining us today and have a fantastic Friday, Sequim.